Hi, everybody. Dan Ullman, Matt Bernier, the DRF Bets Race of the Day for Saturday, July the 20th, race number 12 at Monmouth Park. It is the Grade 1, $1 million Haskell Invitational, 3-year-olds going 9 furlongs. Great card at Monmouth, filled with graded stakes races. Get involved with a DRF Bets account. Learn how to access $150 in risk-free wagers. Let's meet the field for this year's Haskell. You can download free formulator past performances for the Haskell on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Take a look at them and handicap along with us. We'll take this field in post-position order, beginning with the horse that took down maximum security last time out in the Pegasus, and that's the upwardly mobile King for a Day, who's won his last 2 races. And listen, I think the 1 1/8 is going to be right up this horse's alley. He's a big, good-looking horse.
He's done nothing wrong throughout his career. I mean, this is a horse that really was pretty highly thought of as a 2-year-old. I thought he ran tremendous in the Kentucky Jockey Club, given that he was close to a hot pace, he was wide, and he still hung around at the end. It's a shame that he missed as much time as he did. I think you can look at the Pegasus one of 2 ways and say this just happened to be an instance where a horse, as you laid out, he continues to improve and he got the better of maximum security that day, and there's reason to believe he can do it again Saturday. Or you can look at it the other way and say, yes, he had the recency and he's running well, but maybe he got maximum security at the time that maximum security was able to get had, where he was coming off the bench, he needed a race. Now he's going to take a step forward and he'll pass by a horse like King for a Day. I'm not going to argue with either side. I think they're both 2 of the 3 major players in here.
I just think King for a Day is pretty good. It was nice to know that he can stay close to the pace if necessary. There is a lot of pace in here, and he's versatile. He can stay back. He should save valuable ground going into the first turn. And there was a point at about the 3/16 pole of the Pegasus where it looked like maximum security had gotten away. And King for a Day said, "Oh, no, you don't." And he reeled him in. So he showed he's got a little bit of guts and class as well, and courage to reel that horse in. He's a very interesting runner, obviously, for Todd Pletcher. The number 2 is Jovia. He is a stakes winner at Monmouth, albeit over a sloppy track. That was in the Long Branch, and then he ran better than expected when the pace setter in the Belmont. Now, did he simply run that great in the Belmont because he was on the gold rail?
Well, I mean, I think it's part of it, but it's also what we had talked about, and we've talked about time and time again with the Belmont Stakes. Helps to be forwardly placed, usually because the pace isn't going to be all that fast. He was forwardly placed. He was down on the inside. He had everything go his way in that race. And having said that, I do think Jovi is actually a nice little horse. I don't know that he's as good as the 3 big boys in this spot, but I would be stunned if we don't see him on the lead with that most recent workout in 58-2. I know it's Monmouth Park, but I think they have one way to go, and that's to the front.
Nice segue to our Timeform US pace projector because they've got Jovia up close. It's a red bar situation. There is a lot of pace. I agree that this pace should be fast in the Haskell. I wonder how John Velasquez plays the break with King for a Day. I wonder if he goes and tries to establish position with Jovia and Spun to Run and Bethlehem Road. All 3 of those horses with speed to the outside. Let's move on to Spun to Run, who was a pace-pressing winner last time out at Parks. The blinkers go on for Juan Carlos Guerrero. He is improving with each start, but this is a giant step up in class. He does have speed.
Yeah, I think it would be one thing if this was a lesser group, if the other horses in here didn't seem like they were arguably some of the best 3-year-olds that we have right now. This just seems like a really difficult spot for a horse like this to dive into stakes company.
Timeform US actually has Bethlehem Road out there on the lead, and he did set some fast fractions in his 2-turn debut in that Park Spring Derby. Do you think he was exposed last time out in the Ohio Derby, stepping up into the graded ranks for the first time, wasn't able to make the lead, and then no match for Owendale and Math Wizard and Long Range Toddy? 3 nice 3-year-olds, but perhaps not even of the caliber of these.
I think it can be a little bit of both. He didn't have the cleanest of starts, and perhaps that compromised his chances. But at the same time, after that, things seemed to go relatively smooth, and he just didn't really go on with it. And you brought it up. Those 3 horses, maybe with the exception of Owendale, perhaps he stacks up. But horses like Math Wizard and Long Range Toddy, they feel like they're the grade 2, grade 3 types of this group. Bethlehem Road, look, the pace projector says he's on the lead. I'm not going to totally argue with that. I disagree with it. I could see a scenario where he is. I don't think he's naturally as fast as Jovia, and I think Jovia, they have one way to go.
Number 5 is Mucho Gusto. Bob Baffert has an enviable record in this race over the years with Southern California Invaders. And isn't it just funny how the racing game works? If you had said probably in January, Baffert will have a main contender in the Haskell, well, you'll say game winner certainly, or how about improbable? But here's Mucho Gusto. And Mucho Gusto may not be as brilliant as those horses, but he's never been off the board from 7 starts. He's consistent, he's hard-hitting, and he has tactical speed. And I like the way he sat and finished over Roadster last time out at Santa Anita.
I mean, really, and you brought up January. So let's go to May. You could have rattled off 3 Baffert horses ahead of this horse, and you would have said, he's going to be a nice sort of one-turn type. I've always been a little bit concerned about how far he wants to go, but boy, that affirmed. I love the way that he moved that day. He just completely engulfed that field, and he held off Roadster, who admittedly probably not where you want to be running at Santa Anita coming from as far back as he was. Mucho Gusto has the ability to sit and finish, and the way that he galloped out, I don't think this 1.8 miles is going to be a problem. The other part is, if you are concerned about 1.8 miles, if there's ever a place that he'll get it, it'll be at Monmouth Park with that track, with the way that it plays. I like that he can sit, let those speeds go, sit just off him. He may not be as naturally talented as the other 2 horses in here. I think he's got a puncher's chance.
But I think you're right. I think the distance is ultimately going to be the question. If you like the gallop out and you like this horse's pedigree, of course, being by Breeders' Cup Classic winner Mucho Macho Man, then you'll think he'll get it. I'm a little bit dubious. It'll depend what kind of price he's going to be in this race. I expect him to be the second choice, actually, behind Maximum Security. We'll get to him in a minute. But first, we have Everfast, second in the Preakness 2 starts back. Boy, Joel Rosario gave him a beautiful ride that day. He was able to save all the ground. Everything worked out. He followed the winner, War of Will, in the stretch, and he got that classic placing. Now, last time out in the Belmont, he was in the catbird seat, Matt. He's sitting right behind the leader on the golden rail, and he got off the rail and allowed Sir Winston to get that spot, and then he finished evenly. It wasn't a bad effort. I wonder what would have happened if he stayed inside. Would he have done a little better?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue. I mean, he was only beaten a little more than 3 lengths. Perhaps he gets a better placing. I don't think he ever would have threatened to win the race. For me, it's still an instance where, the Belmont race, I don't know what you want to do with that because it is so much of an anomaly in general. The Preakness, I still don't know where it came from because it was just so far and away, in my opinion, the best race he's run. If he runs something to that and he gets the pace that it looks like he's going to, I suppose he's interesting underneath. I'm still not totally sold on him. I want him to prove that he belongs.
But this is the situation where I'm sure Dale Romans looks at the speed in this race, and he is just licking his chops, saying Everfast is going to be well behind under the patient Julien Leparoux. Let these horses wear themselves out, and I'm going to come running late. An interesting horse for the exotics at the very least. Let's take a look at our top picks for Saturday's DRF Bets race of the day. Maximum Security finished first in the Kentucky Derby. We all know the trials and the travails about the controversial disqualification. He returned in the Pegasus against King for a Day, and King for a Day, in my opinion, is the kind of horse you don't make a mistake against that horse because he'll make you pay. And Maximum Security made a mistake at the start. He hopped at the break, then went down to his nose, then rushed up to contest the pace. I like the fight he showed in the stretch. Unlike in the Derby, he stayed on his right lead all the way down to the wire. And I think in this race, he's going to prove that he can sit and finish. He's going to let the speeds go. I think he'll be sitting in the second flight on the outside, ready to rear up on the outside. I think Maximum Security is going to get back to the winner's circle.
Yeah, and you know what? I couldn't argue with anyone that took that viewpoint. I had a difficult time separating any of the 3. I could see any of them winning. If I'm playing any kind of multis, I'm using all 3 of them in equal weight. I think Maximum Security is a good horse. I mean, take away all the stuff that happened in the Derby. This horse did not run a bad race in 6 lifetime starts. I don't have any reason to believe that Saturday is going to be the first time he runs a poor one. And I do wonder. I mean, the Pegasus, keep in mind, leading into that, Jason Service said they wanted to do some blood work. Maybe they were a little bit wishy-washy about even running him. The fact that he ran as well as he did, and yes, he got beat on the square by King for a Day, I think it bodes well leading into a race like this. To me, it was very similar to, some of these other spots. It was a means to an end to get to this point. I think you're going to see the best version of Maximum Security we've seen yet.
But I think you like the Affirmed better than the Pegasus as a race, and you've always had a little bit of a thing for Mucho Gusto, and he's versatile enough to get covered up and get the trip.
Well, and also, and I think you're right. I think he's going to be the second choice, which seems a little bit silly because King for a Day, he's going to probably be the third choice in this race, a very fair price, when arguably he might be the best horse in the race. Who knows? It's still too early to tell. With Mucho Gusto, I was impressed enough with the finish in the Affirmed, thinking that this distance is going to work for him. And again, if he's ever going to get 9 furlongs, if you're concerned about it, it'll be at Monmouth Park.
Race number 12 at Monmouth, the Grade 1 Haskell. I'm going 7-1-5-2. Give me numbers.
5-7-1.
Should be a fun race. Lots of graded stakes races on the card. 3-year-old championship might be on the line, or at least the leader in the division might be determined by who wins the Haskell. You can bet this race, obviously, with the DRF Bets account and the $150 risk-free wagers that come along with it. Approximate post 5:49 Eastern. Good luck.